God is the creator of the cookies, you know.
That's right. That's true.
So
Um,
we're live. I'm here with Aidan mid-sentence,
what's going on?
pontificating about the joys of baking.
They didn't hear any of that, right?
No, no.
No, okay. All right.
We're starting
Good.
fresh. We're starting fresh. So how are you doing?
I thought the monkey joke was a little bit, I was like, oh, not
Bit
safe
much.
for work material right here.
Yeah.
Doing good, dude. Doing good. We're on the cusp of change in our household,
Oh,
in a good way.
okay.
Yeah. I've been thinking about what I want to do, transitioning out of nursing in the hospital that I'm nursing and getting another nursing gig. And
Okay.
so we're trying to move up a little bit more north, but still stay south.
Okay.
So we're thinking South Carolina, and I
Oh.
have a job interview at this hospice center called Agape, and I'm like, ooh,
Ooh.
that sounds
Up your alley.
vaguely Catholic. Yeah. Well, with a word like agape and thrown in there.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll be packing everything up and we'll be going up north.
Oh man, what
Um,
what a pain.
no, man, it'll be great. It's gonna be beachside still. So we'll be in the Charleston area
No
and
way.
hmm
Wow, that's a disgusting place full of rich people.
is it?
Yeah, there's like reality TV about that place.
I mean,
Just be careful. Don't go to those
yeah,
parties. Don't go to those parties. I've seen them on
it's
TV.
It's so funny. Everybody was telling us that about Florida too. One of my friends, um, Mike Todd, shout out, buddy. He's just like, threw out a bunch of warnings about Florida. He's like, Florida's a really evil place. I'm like, actually, Florida was the most welcoming, like, mild, Jesus-filled environment you could possibly be in, and like, I don't know about where you're from, but like, do you guys have like open anti-abortion like billboards
No,
and
no,
billboards about Jesus? Yeah, okay,
no.
so like that like flood like fills
Wow.
the streets here, so it's a
Wow. Heavy
pretty
duty.
cool place to.
I like that.
Yeah, I thought you might. Um,
Yeah.
thought you might.
Yeah,
Um,
edgy stuff.
but you know what though? That the thing is that it exists because it's not edgy down here. It's just another um, you know, it's just another group of people that are just talking to themselves basically. So otherwise it wouldn't exist, because if they had to fight, everybody submits to cowardice, and
Oh,
really myself like at the top of the list there.
oh.
Um, but I mean, maybe that's just like the.
So they're preaching to the choir there?
Yeah, I mean, isn't that kind of how it always is?
A lot of the time, yeah.
A lot of the time. I mean, like, it's funny though, because Rachel and I, we were on the beach today, and this gentleman came up and started talking to us, and everybody just thinks because we are like crusty hippies and we look like crusty hippies, they just automatically assume that we're like very
Left.
democratic and liberal,
Yeah.
and so they talk in this very presumptuous way, and then we're always they're like, oh, okay, all right, yeah, don't agree with that, but okay, and you know, and it gives us this impression that liberals expect everybody else to be liberal, but we don't know if that's the case or if we're just very um, like millennial looking. I don't know what it.
Are you a millennial?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
I think I am.
They're supposed to be the worst generation. No offense.
Yeah, I mean, every generation's the worst generation because isn't Gen? What are we up to now? Gen Z or Gen?
Gen A. Gen A.
Are we really?
Yeah. It's looping back.
That's funny.
Anyway, I'm getting all this from the Zoomers. The Zoomers say that the Zoomers are the best. That's what they say.
What's a Zoomer?
They're should I look up the ages? Is it worth looking up the age ranges?
Yeah, I think so.
Let's look up the age ranges. This
Is
is
a Zoomer a baby boomer or no?
no. No, a Zoomer is like in between a millennial and an alpha. or Gen A. It's in between there.
I have no idea what any of those things are.
I'm Gen X.
Yep. The generation that wanted to befriend its children.
Yeah,
So
that would be nice.
no, I mean in like the worst way possible. So
Oh,
here's how I see it. So the baby boomers treated their kids like garbage. The Gen X kids. The Gen X kids then overcorrected by, oh, I want to be little Michael's friend. Here's their trophy. Oh,
yeah.
wipe your poopy butthole. And then that birthed the, millennials and so on and so forth. And so we just keep begetting more and more issues by.
We're getting more neurotic and
Mhm.
psychotic. Baby boomers were born between 46 and 64.
Okay.
Gen X between 65 and 80.
Okay.
I was born in 70. So I'm
Okay.
right in the middle of Gen X. Gen Y or millennials were between 81 and 95 roughly.
Okay.
When were you born?
90.
Okay, yeah, you're firmly in the Gen Y millennial thing.
Mm-hmm.
But there are two kinds of Gen Y. There's Y.1, Y.2. So
Too much, dude.
it's too much information. Okay.
Yeah.
Gen Z Gen Z is born between 97 and 2012, if that's even possible. And then those are the Zoomers. So they would be between 9 and 24 years old.
And
Right.
why do they think that we're the worst?
No, they think they're the best and that the millennials are the millennials are the worst. I don't know why. Probably just sibling rivalry or something. I don't know.
Gotcha.
Gen A is Generation Alpha, and it starts with children born in 2012.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And it's going to go to 2025. I mean, who believes all this nonsense? I don't know.
It's just another tool to use for divisiveness, I suppose. It's just
It's one
let's
step
put
up,
people into camps.
one step up from astrology.
Yeah, I suppose so. Wasn't outlawed by the church, though. Well, I guess astrology is astrology. Dude, did you know that there are like some traditional factions of Catholicism that like back in the day used like astrology, and they like believed in like reading things through the stars?
Yeah. I mean, I just talked to a guy who's an unorthodox Orthodox, and he believes in that stuff.
Yeah, I always wondered.
And he
Like,
believes
how
in
do
reincarnation too. That upset Kieran. Kieran was upset.
did it?
Yeah,
Kieran should be upset because I mean, there's plenty of work by the church fathers that says that reincarnation is not the truth.
It's incompatible with the faith. Yeah, it's incompatible with the faith. Yeah.
Absolutely.
This guy had some strange ideas. No offense intended.
No.
But some strange ideas. But I always let people know. I don't always let people know when I disagree with them. Like I just interviewed a controversial guest, and I got some feedback about it, mixed feedback. And
Sure.
I didn't go out of my way to make the guest feel awkward or to press the issues that we disagree about. Like, for example, COVID, like we talked a little bit before going live, and it was obvious we have different opinions, but a lot of stuff, But I don't always try to press people's buttons for no good reason. But like, if someone's like, "Hey, do you want to discuss this belief of mine?" I'll never pretend like I agree. Like I'm like, okay, we're going to talk about this. Okay, so here's what I think, and sorry if it hurts your feelings, but this is my Catholic belief. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I like doing little mini battles like that as long as everyone knows they're getting into it. But I wouldn't just be like, "Hey, so and so told me that you believe in this. That's stupid."
I think you should do that. I think that's an excellent approach.
I mean, I got to work on my Napoleon Dynamite accent a bit, but I'm getting there.
I started watching. I don't know why, but I watch a lot of your stuff when I'm exercising. So thank you, David.
Gets you pumped up.
It does get me pumped. No, it's actually really nice to have something to listen to while you're doing something, something good for yourself. But
that's fine. What were you listening to?
Rebecca Davis was the last
Oh,
one. She was really cool. She had a really
she's
cool attitude. I didn't
cool.
watch all of her stuff, and because I like it was towards the end of the workout that I started it, and
I'm gonna be on her
um,
podcast next week.
oh, that's cool, man. I'll have to watch that. I briefly tried to like look her stuff up afterwards just to see, and I could
Bread
only
of
find
life.
like a couple of. Oh, gotcha. It's not under her name.
Bread of life. Yeah,
Um,
bread of life.
and I wanted to. I just got to the part where she's like, "Yeah, I don't really believe in hell," and I'm like, "Oh, I really want to." I'm like, gotta open my ears for this one. But I had to like stop it because I was just timing out, and I'm like, okay, I'm all done here, so I'll have to come back and visit this. But she's so nice
Oh my God, she's beautiful too. It's
and
just
just
like
really like, yeah, really cool. And then it's just like
cool.
all of a sudden just like antithetical to the gospel, and then I'm just like, wait, this
And
is
she
gonna be.
supports so-called gay marriage too.
She does.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Man, she's well, she also I saw one of your or not one of your comments. I saw a comment in the comment section that was just like, you think Allah is the same as our God, basically. And
Yahweh.
I could hear the anger in the person's like tapping the keys, and I'm just like, this is supposed to have been a really good interview if you can, upset that many
There
people.
wasn't that much. There wasn't that much talk of Islam, although she did sort of travel and work with Muslims, and she used to be a hardliner, like whatever denomination she was.
Hmm.
Like, hey, this is what we have to believe, and this and that, and not very ecumenical. But then her travels softened her, and she started to think, okay, well, different. I mean, I'll let her speak for herself. You should definitely listen.
Sure.
You should definitely listen to the whole thing because
Yep.
she's a very interesting lady and just so personable and
It was
bright. You know.
nice that you also had a lady
I
on.
know. I
It's like a dude
know.
fest all the
I
time, and
know.
it's
I know. I'm just like dying to talk to
yeah,
women, man. It's like,
yeah,
oh my God, it's a woman. It's like so
yeah. amazing. It's like such a rarity. It's just
I
like you have
know.
like just like these guys. Hey, and
Well,
then
the irony is, I was talking to my little friend Sid. Sid, he's the little guy,
mhm.
cute little guy. You can watch it. I interviewed him yesterday. He's the second
Mhm.
time I've interviewed him. But we're at the end of his interview, and I've got Lena coming on. And I have no idea who Lena is, but Lena knows Rebekah, and I'm thinking, okay. And Lena was very harsh with me in the comments, saying, "Oh, I won't even stoop to debunk your stupid young Earth creationism. You're anti-science, whatever," and a bit harsh like that. And I'm like, "Well, hey, let's talk about it," you know. So Lena booked an interview, but Lena came on the live chat,
Mhm.
and I'm talking to Sid, and I always joke around with Sid because he's a young guy. He's very silly, and he puts up with my stupid jokes and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And I'm like, "Oh, sorry, Sid. I sorry to interrupt, but I just got in the live chat. I got Lena, and I'm gonna interview Lena after you. So hey, this is cool, whatever." And I said to Sid, I said, "Lena's a girl's name, right? That's a girl's name, right?" And he's like, "Yeah," but he said, "In today's world, you never, you
You
never
don't
know.
know.
You don't
You
know,
don't know.
even if it's a girl's name, you don't know." And I'm like, "Oh, let's not get into that. Come on, don't spoil my buzz. Like, I want to interview a woman, you know." And then Lena in the chat's like, "I live in California," and I'm like, "Wow, California girl!" Like, I'm getting all excited, right? And
Turns out,
turns out, yeah. Did you see it?
no, I didn't.
Okay, well, that's the
Is that
punchline. To be
that's the
determined.
punchline?
To be
Uh,
determined. Yeah. Nice guy. Really nice guy, though. Really nice
which
guy.
one? Lena?
Yeah.
Lena
Nice guy. Yeah.
is a
You
dude.
just pretty
Gotta watch it.
sure. Pretty sure. Anyway, he's a nice guy. I like him. Nice warm guy. But anyway, I don't want to get too deep into it. But all I'm saying is, I got a lot of reaction from my listeners because some conservative Christians and all that. So
Gotcha.
I got
All right. So I have to check
I
out that
got some
interview.
negative feedback. So one of my longtime friends and listeners was basically condemning me to hell, that I'm a Satanist and an anarchist because I didn't roast this Lena person in my interview. Like, I was just very friendly,
Gotcha.
a little bit flirty. Like, I mean, it's like
You have to be everything to them, David. Mother, brother, secret lover. You
Anyway,
know.
whatever. I mean, it's interesting. It's my whole point is here is that, you know, it'd be nice to have more women on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And I really, really love women. I love their vibe. I love their mystery. I love their hair. I love everything.
And we can tell by your own hair.
I like
David's
how
like,
they dress.
Nihola. Nihola, I think, knows about your love of women's hair as well.
Who is that?
Nicola.
Who's that?
I didn't know if Nicola. He's always
Chrisick?
yeah, he's always busting your chops about your long, flowy hair.
Don't show me your hair. It's gross.
Yeah, and I'm all for it, man. I'm all.
Yeah, because you embrace your feminine side, but he's scared. He's like, I'm like gay because I find David's hair sexy.
Yeah, well, I'm always battling it's always at work. They're like, so you're gay, right? I'm like,
people you've worked for 10 years, and like, you're still gay, right?
you're still gay. Yeah. No, it's either, yeah, dude, it's like, but they're not afraid to ask me.
Are you GPNG?
What's GPNG?
Gay pretending not to be gay.
Gay pretending not to be gay. No, I'm not. My wife is not my beard. I am. But it's so funny though, because I always have that, like, I have that soft look, right? So at work, I'm either like patients with dementia or violent patients in general, like, look at me, they size me up, and they're just like, this guy's a weakling. And they're just some men that you look at and you're like, I won't mess with this man. I'm one of those men that either you mess with because you know that I'm inherently weak, too pretty or something, I don't know, to be able to defend myself, which is true. And
do those yoga moves though.
I'm gay. Do the
sun salutation. Boom.
Boom. Possess instant power, instant strength.
Burn. So Joe is in. Sorry to interrupt, but I got an urgent message from my sponsor Joe in the comments section. You know Joe, right? Little bald Jewish guy. Anyway, he's my friend.
Okay.
He asked, "Did you think Lena was pretty?"
And that was he's asking you, obviously, because I've never seen.
Obviously, yeah.
Can I just say yes?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna weigh in and say
I said yes.
Okay. Good.
I showed my wife. I'm like, this guy's cute, and she's like,
I love your completely objective ability, because you to see the good looks of a human being. You always tell Kieran and I that we're nice looking people, and so it's always just
that's just to be polite though.
I don't believe it. I feel it right in the pit of your soul. I feel when you say it, I know you're believing your words. So
yeah. Depends on the hair. If you're having a good hair day, if you're having a good hair day or whatever.
Right. Today I'm wearing my spectacles. You're
a 7. 7's good.
No,
though.
dude, I'm a 6. I'm a 6.
7's good.
If I had my glasses, if I had my contacts in, you wouldn't know what to do.
You got to keep the beard. The beard is essential for you. It's essential. I can't remember what Kieran's facial hair situation is.
He's like got like a goatee that grows outward, but he doesn't have sideburns. So, and me, I don't have anything here. So between the two of us, we might have a full beard one day.
So I love rating the beauty of men and women, dogs, goldfish. Like, I mean, it's just like anything else. It's like, show me 2 apples, 2 tomatoes, whatever. It's like, I love evaluating beauty. I just love it. And squeeze the tomato, like, oh my God, this one's like perfect. You know what I mean?
Weird. Definitely. No, but it's so funny though, because like a lot of people are attracted to Catholicism because of beauty. And I was never attracted to Catholicism because of beauty. I was actually attracted to it because of silence and reverence. And I didn't realize that was like, those were traits included in beauty. But a lot of people, like, see a landscape, they're immediately then brought into the sovereignty of God, and they're like, wow, God is omnipotent, God is great, God is good. And me, I'm just like, oh, son, I'm just kind of I don't know, I'm kind of stupid when it comes to that stuff, but in the past couple of years, I've been praying for joy in the simple things. And now when Rachel and I go for walks, it's half a joke, but also half true. Um, I'll hear a bird whistling, or I'll see a flower and I'll go and run up to it gaily, you know, which is, again, half a joke, but also,
It's like
um,
pure MDMA that you're consuming before these walks, or magic mushrooms, acid. What is it?
basically, yeah, it's the joy of the Lord. And plus it makes Rachel laugh. So,
But I do like individual flowers, whatever that's moderately beautiful, whatever. And I prefer the smell of a flower. But when it comes to like, oh, look at this beach, look at this mountain, whatever, it's like I can get a thrill for maybe half a second, and it's just
mhm.
like I'm over it. I'm over the beauty of nature and the landscape. I'm just not that impressed. Sorry, just not that impressed. I'm more impressed by animals, like humans and other animals. So just like that's more exciting for me.
uh, who was it? Catholic philosopher Peter Kreeft spoke about people that are interested. He had a book about angels, and I read this book when I was like 10. And he said that statistically, he noticed that people that are interested in creatures also have like this interest in angels as well. So people that are fascinated by animals here on Earth also have that angelic fascination. Do you have that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure, but it's not I don't have the deep appreciation like I do for humans. Like I mean, I it's much more intellectual with the angels than it is with the humans. Like I mean, I just have a more direct relatability to humans than I do to angels, and it's more abstract and bit colder and more disconnected with the angels. But I do think about my guardian angel, and I try
Mm-hmm.
to, I pray to him. I pray to it, or I guess we could say him because
No,
relative.
no, no, no. You can assign the gender because
It's okay.
from what I understand, it's typically more male or more female traits
I
for.
think they're named with male names, right?
Yeah,
Michael.
yeah, all the ones that we know officially, but some I have a book from Joan Cruz called Angels and Demons, and she talks about people seeing their angels as male or female, and I think women tend to see theirs as female more often, and
Oh,
men tend to see theirs as male.
oh.
Um, which, like, I think there's some credence to that. Uh, I don't know why, but I
I'm
guess
more
it we feel
comfortable
more
with
comfortable.
guys. I'm more comfortable with guys. Like,
Yeah.
no, I'm not saying like in real life, but with if I would want my angel to be, well,
A
probably because
dude.
all the disgusting masturbation I've done, I would probably want it to be a guy, right? I wouldn't want
Yeah.
some woman watching that and what are you doing? So
Do you
when
reward your angel? Do you like offer specific prayers for him to
just
go off and do
prayers.
things?
Oh,
Because
as a
no,
distraction. So
no. I mean, like, yeah, I always think about that. I'm like, oh man, he saw the worst, like all of like everything in detail. And so
yeah.
sometimes I'm like, okay, like you can take the precious blood. Like if you went to mass that day, I specifically picked the altar that's closest to me because I just really love my home priest and really just like the idea of like the local parish. And so, if I'm feeling particularly um, not guilty, but if I feel like, oh, my guardian angel really put up with a lot today, I'll say, oh, you know what, Father, if allow my guardian to, I call him my big brother because that's essentially what he is. Let my big brother take the precious blood to somebody that he wants to take it to today as reward for his um, fidelity to
Tolerance
you
and
through me. Yeah. And I'm like, I think that that's a pretty
it's
cool
cool.
thing because,
Yeah,
how often do you get to like play a part in the joy of your angel? Most of the
it's
time
cool.
it's just like sitting on a toilet, you know, and he's just there like,
He's
like,
just there.
like,
Oh, the patience of these angels, man. It's the patience of God. It's the patience of
Yeah.
God. But we're going to enjoy all the stuff, even all the nasty stuff. We're going to enjoy it once we're in heaven, understanding how it serves God's purpose and all that, right? So that's a real we're going to have a different perspective on all the nasty stuff, even war, rape, everything. We're going to see from God's perspective and how he allowed it because it's for the greater good to allow it. And yes, it's obviously regrettable that it happened, but God in his wisdom allows it to happen, obviously. So, but I want to tell a little anecdote what happened today at church. As you were speaking, I was listening, but I was also processing in the back of my head. I got to tell my story. Got to tell my story. Got to tell my. Don't forget to tell your story. Don't forget the
Go
funny
for it.
story. So,
Do it.
the funny story is there's a woman. Okay, so a bit of background. We're at church and the organ's playing, and it's like beautiful, like freaky, psychedelic, like it usually is. With this guy's amazing, right?
Hmm.
And I think it's Messiaen's or something like that. The composer. It's just really wild music, and anyway, I just noticed today, like it sounds even more psychedelic. There's just like this sort of humming, and I thought, like, what's going on? Like, is his organ not tuned or something flapping? Like, sounds like paper flapping or something. Anyway, when the this lady got up to sort of enter the Catholic communion for the first time because she's raised baptized Anglican,
Hmm.
the priest asked her up, and he had told us beforehand this is going to happen. But then at the end of the mass, she came up and she had her little creed that she's going to read the creed, like the
Hmm.
full length, whatever the proper Apostles' Creed is called or whatever. And the microphone, sadly, was giving that same papery effect. Like it sounded like you could barely hear what she's saying, like on Peanuts with that when the parents are on the phone.
Like
Wah,
when the
wah, wah,
adults
wah.
talk.
Huh? Yeah, when the
When the
adults
adults
talk,
talk.
exactly.
Yeah.
But it kind of sounded funny, like squeaky and whatever. And so I was embarrassed. I was trying not to laugh. Like, I mean, practically in the front row at church. I'm trying not to laugh. It's like embarrassing. No one can hear it. Someone got up from the pew, walked all the way to the front, and it's like to the priest, like, no, 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 we can't hear, we can't hear anything. So it was a bit of a disaster, and I felt bad. I felt bad for this young lady. She's probably 30, 35. And anyway, I waited out front in front of the church like a stalker, and she
Hmm.
came out with her husband and whoever the other guy was, and I'm like, "Hey, you're Anglophone, right?" Because I could tell by her French accent she's Anglophone, so I just thank God I can speak English. And so I said, "Hey, congratulations! Like, what were you reading?" Because we couldn't hear it, and I said. She's like, "Oh yeah, I'm so sorry and whatever." I said, "Oh, it's not your fault, isn't it?" And I said, "And you, but your, what did I say? Your Donald Duck impression is on point because it sounded like Donald Duck when she was speaking." But this is a woman I just met that had this monumental occasion at church, and I'm like, "Oh, but your Donald
Making
Duck
light of it.
impression." So she was laughing. But the
Did you
thing
get
is,
invited on the show?
I did invite her on the show, and she's like, "I'm a very private person, but thank you for the offer." And it's like I just felt like, "Oh, come on, man, don't be a dweeb." Like, come on. Anyway, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. But I was, you know,
That's awesome.
I'm a little bit kooky, right? So when I cornered her outside, and at first she's like, "Oh, thank you, yeah," and we joked around a little bit, and then I started ranting and raving about the Catholic Church and da da da, and the Anglican Church and the reading and like the history of the church, and I talked about the church militant, church suffering, church triumphant. It just went on and on and on. Her eyes are glazing over, and her husband's patiently standing there waiting. And I guess I realized a little bit too late that I'm just like rambling. But I thought, okay, this is a new convert to the faith. She's going to be on fire. She's going to be
Fire.
excited, whatever.
Yeah.
But she's basically just like, I did this so that I could be the godmother to my whatever. So
Uh,
it's basically just like, okay, you can be the godmother, but you're gonna have to get enter full communion with the Catholic Church. That's the rule. Okay, so I'll do it. And she's like, yeah, the church is important because good sense of community and all that. It's just like, oh, come on. Come on. Do I want to hear a sense of community? Come on. You're joining the Catholic Church for the sense of community? Really?
I
Anyway,
know
I
there's
can
so many better communities to join. Like There's so many better ones out there,
I
but
don't want to disparage this woman's character. I may be having fun with it, exaggerating a little bit here and
sure.
there, but it's just storytelling. But I love her. I wish her well. I hope she's on fire for the faith, and she just thought, "Who's this freak? It's not his business," right?
Well, and it's also the best place for her to accidentally end up and catch fire. So
Ah,
like, who knows, man? Maybe she'll just be sitting there one day and she'll like suddenly get gobsmacked by something that like really didn't ever penetrate before at her Anglican church, and she'll be like, "Whoa, this is the truth."
yeah, but she never
And
even attended Anglican church. That's the thing. Like well,
oh, really?
from what I understand, she's just sort of like
Oh,
loosely Christian. I don't want to judge her, but
sure,
I got the impression like either I'm way too much and she's just normal, or like she is actually kind of lukewarm. But I don't know. I don't want to judge.
sure.
I don't want to judge her, especially since I told her about my podcast. She's probably listening to this right now, going, ah,
Yes, that's
ah.
exactly what she did. She thought that awkward encounter was so awesome that she went home, she YouTubed you, did CVS podcast, sift through all the CVS drugstore nonsense to find this one live stream, and now she is in
Crying.
attendance, and she's just like, how do I get into the live chat to tell this douche that he needs to rethink how I
I
feel?
I I single-handedly gave her the gift of tears. That's pretty good.
That's right. Oh
No, but
man,
listen. When it comes to someone entering the Catholic Church as an adult, I want enthusiasm. I want you to be pumped up. Like, this is it, man. I'm in. I'm in. Wow, it's God's church. Like, how did I get in? That's
right.
how I felt. And if you haven't listened to my interview with Pine Sap, he's like 21 years old. Pine Sap.
Is that a new one?
It's a new one.
Yeah. Okay. I
Baldish
just saw that
guy,
one.
short
Okay.
hair, military haircut, whatever. Sweetheart, sweetheart, and
Mm-hmm.
a gentle, kind soul, polite guy. He lives in some red state.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he's on fire. Like, he's on fire for the faith. I love to see it. He's
That's awesome.
voracious reader. He knows he's digging deep into Vatican II. He loves Vatican II. He loves Pope Francis. I'm like, what is happening in my world? We've
That's
got
so cool, man.
young Catholics who are hardcore and they love tradition and they love the living magisterium, the Pope and Vatican II. What is happening? This is like a dream come true. I've been waiting 10 years to have this combination of tradition and living magisterium. It's like a miracle. I'm so excited, and he's excited. That's what's even more
That's. I
thrilling.
feel like I got to jump myself up, David. I
Yeah,
feel like I
baby.
gotta. No, well, my prayer, like my personal prayer approach lately has been taking a turn for something better. I would say because you know, Rachel and I don't have children, so like a couple months ago, I was thinking, like really thinking about it. And I'm like, well, if you just go to work and you come home, you like hang out with your wife and you do your thing, like, why are you not more devoted? Like, why aren't you more devoted to your prayers? Why aren't you being a better husband? Why aren't you like, because I always thought like, yeah, when I'm old, I'll go to daily mass. And it's just like, why don't you do that now type of thing? And daily mass isn't really in the cards for me, but practicing mental prayer, reading the daily scriptures, reading the Desert Fathers, uh, trying to practice some kind of ascetic discipline with a little bit more rigidity, a little bit more focus, intercessory prayer for others, like doing these things consistently and not just like, my haphazard rosary or two a day. That's like you pray it whenever type of thing. And then I was like, well, we're good. We're covered. I just, pop this thing out. And so for the past couple months, I've been fine tuning and kind of structuring a prayer regimen for myself that is, originally I started making it because I wanted to know about contemplation, like infused contemplation. And all the sources say, well, you can't get to infused contemplation unless you are preparing yourself for it. You can never gain it yourself, but you can always ready yourself for it. And then I didn't realize it, but I've been reading a lot of stuff on spiritual warfare and the demonic. I've been reading Father Amorth. His one, An Exorcist explains the demonic, not that one. I mean, I have that one, but An Exorcist shares his story, I think it is. And I'm like, oh, what is this? And the more that I'm like diving into this prayer rule I've been developing for myself, the more I see like this peace that all human beings are craving and they're searching for in yoga, they're searching for it in Eastern philosophy, they're searching for it in Eastern meditative practices. It's actually found in full in developing a prayer practice in accordance with the church. But also the flip side of that, the other side of the coin, is having a very real sense of spiritual warfare and engaging in that. And it seems very, very strange, because when we think of like peace, when we think of like happiness, like you do think of like the Buddhist, like green Zen, like chill, trickling water, breathe in, breathe out kind of stuff. And so you're like, yeah, that's peace. And not like when you read, the spiritual combat, it's like, oh yeah, all of life is a war, and you're going to be waging that war till the day that you die. You see those two things and you think, I'll take the green grass, running water, and not the warfare bit. And it's funny because the warfare is where the peace actually is, and the other one is where the dangers are. And so it's been really cool, even just like getting my toes wet in like the Catholic theology that looks unappealing from the outside. But
Yeah, very cool
yeah,
insight, very cool insight. And I believe it 100%. I believe it because, Satan wants us to be asleep. Lull. No, 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 no. Go back to sleep. Don't worry about that war. No, the other people are taking care of it. The big people are taking care of it. Don't go back to sleep. Okay. So that's Satan's role, basically,
right.
with the green grass and the running water. Not to demonize these practitioners of these religions, but
Mm-mm.
Satan wants us asleep or drunk or intoxicated with, romantic love or whatever it is, whatever's sedating us and keeping us down. And so uh, Jesus says to be sober, to be awake, and I come not to bring peace but a sword.
Right. But when you hear that, like you're like, what's the other thing again about being asleep? Like sleep feels so much better than picking up your sword every day. And then like, you know, especially when your sword is not looking at beautiful women, or not being a coward in the face of some kind of issue that like you have to speak up about, or being obedient to your supervisor, or not being angry and catty at a person that's are really, really mean, like it's like, oh man, why is that spiritual warfare? Why can't it
Mhm.
be like, why can't it be just like physical training? But
Or a chess match or something.
or a chat. Nah, I can't do that. I'm not
Oh,
that
okay.
good. But
Okay.
the more, dude, and the more that I keep reading it, I'm like, oh, there's no way around this. You do have to have a strategy for for the whole process. Like you can't just go into it saying like, I'm just gonna pray and I'm just gonna do this and everything will take care of itself. I mean, we can step into the arena that way, but like you know what I mean? Like that's okay. God will take any effort that you give
Mhm.
him and he'll reward it and
Mhm.
slowly pair us off to where we need to be. But I'm getting to this point where I'm like, okay, I have these specific areas of deficiency and I need to pick the worst one and head that off now
Yeah.
and beat that one by degrees. And then I need to get to the second one and
Yeah.
beat that one. You know what I mean? Like there is like that. That's the best way to do it. When my wife and I watch CrossFit and we watch those competitions, they're not just training arbitrarily and like, beating at the air. They're doing specific regimented actions so that they have strength in all of these different fields. And to expect not to have to do that in the spiritual life would be naive.
For sure, for sure. We watched, Anna and I watched a William Shatner show about, it's called The Unexplained. And this episode was about extreme sports, in particular running,
Hmm.
long distance ultra
Like ultra
marathons,
running.
ultra
Ah,
running. Yeah,
it's
ultra running. It was
awesome.
fascinating. It was fascinating. It's such a pure sport, like running. It's just I feel pain in my lower back just thinking about running, because pound, pound,
Were you a
pound,
runner?
pound. I used to run 5 miles a day, like very casually when I
Hmm.
was in my early 20s. And even then, my back would be like, oh, it's getting like
Hmm.
just compressed. It's just not, I just don't have a healthy backbone. My sister died because of spina bifida. So it's like
Uh,
maybe something in my genetics about bad posture and bad weak backbone, all this sort of thing. But I just had a thought. Okay, that was one thought, but there's another thought that I had. Anyway, the extreme sports thing is pretty cool with the discipline and all that. But there's this other idea I want to bounce off you, which is that I just sort of had an insight about cooperation. I always talk about from my ivory tower, oh, we have to cooperate with God's grace and this and that. It's true. But I just realized how to do it, which is like more concrete. And I have to thank Satan for this because he showed me what it means to cooperate with God by showing me how I cooperate with him, with
mhm.
Satan. So it's a very good epiphany I had. It's like, why in the past 2 years, why have I been sliding into, bad habits, looking at stuff I shouldn't be looking at and stuff like that. Um, and I thought, okay, well, it's because I'm no longer having custody of my eyes. Like I'm indulging when I see some chick's cleavage, I just look. And I shouldn't be doing that because that's like feeding the demons and then I'm ready for the next stage. So I realized like there's this whole thing about like a little cheating here, a little cheating there, or if it's with self-indulgence with food or laziness or
Mhm.
whatever. um I see now, I can see, first of all, why you avoid the near occasion of sin, but I can now see the that idea of the head of the serpent. You let the head of the serpent in and the rest of the body can easily slide in,
Follow.
follow in. And I'm starting to see now, by the grace of God and with confession and stuff like that, that this weakness that I've been experiencing over the past 2 years since COVID has given me more insight into how to cooperate with evil. And I suddenly realized that that applies for the good side too. Like,
Right.
what is it to cooperate with God's grace? Well, you get given a little opportunity, right? And you think, oh, that's not much, right? Just like with the sin, you think, well, this is not a big sin. This is not even a sin. This is just sort of delectation. It's just sort of like, it's just a little something. And in the back of your mind, like, well, it could lead to more, but I won't go there. Of course, I won't go there, right? So it's the same thing with cooperating with God's graces. It's just a little tiny grace. Like, I mean, it's nothing to get excited about. But
Right.
if you take the opportunity that's there, and then oh, wait, there's like a slightly bigger opportunity and a slightly bigger one. And then before you know it, it's like big graces, right? So this is an insight I had. Maybe it's embarrassing that I hadn't realized this sooner. The sort of parallel between obeying Satan little by little by little, and then before you know it, you're in mortal sin. And then on the other side with God, just say yes to the little graces, and they'll get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then before you know it, you're having a transformation in your prayer life and in your ability to focus, have clarity, have peace, have joy, all these things, the gifts of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, that sounds right to me. Like it's kind of like having a room with a bunch of doors in it, and like a bunch of doors are opened, and water is spilling into the room and filling it up. And most of the time, that's just sin. That's just like all the worldly things that we really like to engage in, and um, it's really easy if you keep those doors open, then you're just going to have all this sin pouring in. But if you start closing those doors off by practicing the virtues, by practicing prayer, by frequenting the sacraments, those doors shut. And then what can you do? You start opening windows, like you probably do a lot of religious reading, and I do as well. I do a lot of like reading like in a leisurely fashion, but I'm also on my phone all the time too, that like just kind of like doing whatever I want on my phone. And so I'm like, okay, well, if I close the door of my phone and I just decide to pick up my book a little bit more that like is explicitly Catholic, whether or not the book is incredibly spiritually edifying or not, like
Warning, explicit Catholic material, warning.
yeah, like just any kind of like right now I'm reading like Father Amorth's book. It's just so Catholic,
Yeah.
there's just no denying it. But if you're constantly filling your mind, or you're filling this room, you know, with something of the faith, and you're like closing it off to the things of the world, before you know it, the room is being completely filled with all of these good, healthy things that we actually need for ourselves. And so that I see what you're saying about letting a little bit of grace pour in, because then a little bit more pours in, and a little bit more and a little bit more, and before you know it, you're flooded by it, hopefully.
Well, this is what they say, these people that are into the whole, new science, the new physics. Oh, so exciting, right? In the early 20th century, whatever, and all the books that were written popularizing the new physics, and wow. But they taught one idea that I carry with me from that, reading that garbage, is that it's not all garbage, but it's a lot of philosophical blather. But one of the things I carry with me is that idea of everything is traveling at the speed of light. Whether it's true or not isn't my point, but the idea that there's two axes. There are two axes, and it's between space and time, and so it's a proportion. Some percentage is travel through space, and some percentage is travel through time. This is the relativity theory, the general relativity theory, I think, or special. I can't remember, of Einstein. So it's basically the conclusion is everything's traveling at the speed of light. It's just a different proportion of space or time, because there's space-time, right? This is what Einstein believed. This was his model, and I think a lot of it's garbage, but whatever. So applied to the spiritual world, I like to think of that same two-axis system where it's like good and evil, right? Even though evil has no substance, but it's like good and the lack of good, whatever. And so what you're saying about like, hey, let's replace some of our calendar blocks, or at least time blocks of certain days. Let's just replace some of those moments or small time blocks. Just swap some of the bad ones out, or the mediocre ones, or even the neutral ones out. Swap the neutral ones out for Catholic, like you said, 100% guaranteed explicit Catholic content.
Right.
And what can go wrong? I mean,
Nerd
nothing.
alert.
Huh?
Nerd alert is what I said, because
Yeah.
it's just so lame. But
And I actually made an Excel graph back when I was on fire for my faith 2 years ago. An Excel spreadsheet with just like 15-minute blocks of every waking moment of every day. Like, okay, now I'm doing spiritual reading. Now I'm doing my prayers. Now I'm at daily mass. Now
cool.
I'm doing this. Now I'm
Nerdy, but
doing
cool.
that. And it was unmanageable just to like, it's just like my whole life is just spent updating this friggin' database. It's just like, forget it, whatever. And then my whole life went to hell because it's just like a lukewarm loser. But should have kept the database. I should have kept the database going.
Yeah, that would have felt good living by that. Well, it's funny that you did that though, because that's basically just the prayer rule of a monk. Their whole day is like regimented into these different sections where they try, like, this time is dedicated to matins, and this time is dedicated to mass, and this time is for your personal reading, and this time is for a nap, and this time is for a communal meal, and this time is for like just like leisure, and this time and I'm like, oh, that's really cool, because then their whole day becomes this opportunity to produce or to receive the gift of contemplation. And I'm like, actually every person in like the married state can operate in a similar manner. And it's but then you take it and you try to do it and you're like, this sucks a lot. Because like if you want to wake up, I don't know if you wake up a little bit earlier to say your prayers, but I wake up a little bit earlier to say my prayers. And like every time I'm like, I want coffee and I want food and I want YouTube all before I start saying my prayers. That's what I want. And so because I'm willing to wake up a little bit earlier for my prayers, I'm like, all right, give yourself the coffee, the food, and the
Okay.
YouTube, and then say your prayers. And it's good, but it's so pathetic, dude, because I'm just like, feed senses, and then it's like, and then God,
Just do it for God, like your favorite little flower there. Just do it for God. And
That's
I
right.
have to say, I may have embarrassed myself because Bread of Life is in the live chat. That's Rebekah.
Oh, cool.
And
Hello,
so
Rebekah.
she says, "Hi guys." She says, "You're so hard on yourself." Because she thinks that we Catholics, we're dwelling on sin. And if you watch her entire interview, she has a pretty cool saying. She says, "I don't have time for thinking about how sinful I am because I'm so damn holy." She didn't say damn, but she said, "Because I'm so holy, I don't have time to dwell on my sinfulness because I'm just too busy being holy."
Do you know the story of the two monks, the two desert monks, right? They both commit the same sin of fornication, right? So they go off um, to their superior, and the superior says to them, okay, so your punishment, you're both going to go off into your cells for a full year. I'm going to give you bread and water to last you for a full year, and you're both going to commit yourselves to acts of penance. And so a year goes by, and the one comes out, and he is beaming like a sunshine. And like he's just, whew, look at this guy. And the other guy is like just emaciated and thin, and tears coming down his face, and just like, So they both go up to the superior, and he said, "How'd you guys fare?" And the one says to him, "I spent my whole year praising God for forgiving me for my sins, and I feel great." And the other dude's just like, "I spent the whole year fasting and beating my breast and lamenting and mourning my sins." And the superior said, "Both of what you did was acceptable in the eyes of the Lord." And
So that gives us the option, right?
so, Bread of Life, what up? You're looking at the stupider
Yeah,
of the
the
two.
self-flagellation. Woe is me.
Yeah,
Oh, such a
yeah,
sinner. I'm a bigger sinner than you, Aidan.
yeah. You are.
Oh yeah.
That's agreed. Yeah. If you want to outdo each other in humility, you win, buddy. I don't care. I don't I can't even pretend to be humble.
Wow, that's like 5D chess. Like, oh, I'm not even gonna compete against you because you got me beat already with the
Yeah,
humility
dude.
thing.
I've heard David sins, everybody. They're gross.
Oh,
It's
but anyway, it's true. It's true.
it's
It's
not,
true.
dude. It's just I just love the idea of like somebody going up to like a priest, like, "Father, I did such and such," and instead of being like warm and welcome, he's like, "Oh, you did this hard. You're going to hell. Get out of here. Just go."
If he does it
Like,
with the Napoleon Dynamite voice, like,
exactly.
"Ugh,
Ugh.
that's gross." Oh, he's not a Valley Girl though. But
Ridiculous.
no, but I mean, it is. It is. I have to admit, Bread of Life. Well, not Bread of Life, but Rebecca did kind of gently show me an example, like how to be Christian. Like I don't have to be self-obsessed with what a loser I am. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's refreshing. It's very refreshing. And I mean, you seem balanced, Aiden, to me balanced, but a little bit like me, just a little bit self-critical like me. You know what I mean? A little
Sure.
bit.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, dude. People tell me I'm happy at work all the time. They're like, "How are you so happy?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Like, I don't know, you know. But that's all I've been praying for. Really, is just like if I'm not like I don't feel good, but I want other people to feel good when they're around me. So it's like I don't know if I'm doing something right or not, but I probably do
We'll
too.
read your memoirs. It'll be like Saint Teresa of Calcutta. It's like God abandoned me, and I like
Yeah,
she was there like with the beautiful smile, and I love her
I know.
wrinkles and everything, and but she was suffering on the inside because she felt abandoned. She felt. Um, So Rebecca says she's always doing this to me. It's like, just keeps doing this to me. She says, "You guys are shining in righteousness. Many don't care if they are sinful, but the fact that your sin disturbs you shows your righteousness." So she'll always do this. She'll always take my frown and turn it upside down, and she'll just say, "Hey, like, maybe you don't need to be dwelling on that, whatever." It's just, it's very simple. It's very positive, and I take it seriously as divine providence. When you meet people that have a refreshing perspective.
She really does exercise her vocation as a mother, it seems, because that's such a
Comforting thing.
it's such a comforting thing. And my grandmother was like that. I'm gonna expose my Uncle Mark for a second because he loves this story. But when he was battling an addiction with alcohol years ago, he got drunk and he crashed his car into a telephone pole. And then he went to, like, later on, he drove to my grandmother's house because, everybody would just congregate there to get tea and biscuits. And she came out to the door to greet him. And she's like, "Oh, Mark, what happened to your car?" And he, like, looks back. He's like, "Oh, yeah, I got drunk and wrapped it around a pole." And she's like, "Oh, come on in for tea." And just very, like, but not like a sweep under the rug kind of attitude, just kind of like, well, let's feed you. And there's just this kind of
easy breezy, effortless
unwillingness to look at the faults of others and just say, "Okay, come to me. Let me hug you. Let me
take care of you." And
yep.
A total realist acknowledgement of, like, yes, this happened, and yes, we're here, and this is how we're going to move on. Like, I mean, she's in the moment.
Yep.
And she's like, this is what we're gonna do, and it's not to condone anything or to pretend it never happened or whatever.
Right.
Because, like, I'm from Ontario, Canada, where there's a little bit of a repressive vibe, like, hey, let's not talk about that, and your Aunt Shirley's coming over and we don't want to talk about that thing. And you know what I mean? It's just it's disgusting. And not to disparage anyone's character, but it's just sort of like it's a cultural thing, right? It's part of the reason I moved to Quebec. Quebec is a Catholic culture. Everyone's more just like Italian, like, "Hey, Vinny, why are you such a bonehead?" or whatever. You know what I mean? That Catholic way, the Catholic way, right?
Right.
So it's more.
It's 100p Catholic.
Yeah, let it hang out, and it's like, yeah, we're sinners, whatever. Pass the potato chips, whatever. It's just like more casual and less uptight, like buttoned up Christian thing.
Right.
So Rebecca has sort of like the best of both worlds, because she's like cool and like, like zen and like in touch with her Christian faith, but not uptight. And, I'm not saying Rebecca's perfect, but there's something to be learned from her example, I think.
Yeah, my buddy would always joke at the yoga studio, because this is the cliche thing to say. It's all about balance, it's all about balance, which is just the cheesiest thing, but there really is something about developing a flow and a balance with everything.
It's true.
That makes something appealing. I guess I was always taught to be harsh to yourself and then easy on others around you, and that always seemed to be a very Catholic way of being, where you made sure that log was pulled out of your eye, and you didn't go looking for specks in other people's. You just acknowledged your own unrighteousness and then tried to love everybody else around you regardless of circumstances.
100%. I mean,
it's hard.
It's intuitive for me, even though, as everyone who knows my podcast knows, I'm very selfish, self-centered, whatever. But part of that, the good side of that, the silver lining for that is that all the tendency that a lot of rad trads have to stick their nose in someone else's business and say, those people are evil. I don't have that. I just don't have that. It's like, I'm legitimately concerned about number one. And it really is more important to me that I go to heaven and that I get right with God personally than saying, "Oh my God, did you hear what Aidan said? That's not Catholic. That's not Catholic, is it?" And it's like, it just so happens that I'm a good fit for Catholicism because all of the saints always teach me you cannot feel superior to any human being. Well, they don't say you can't feel superior, but you can't think yourself superior. I often make this distinction. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
feel superior. Yeah, sure, I feel superior, but it's just a feeling, right? But
Thank God, though, dude. Thank God, because
God forbid that I think or believe
right.
that I'm superior.
The trad community, like I find myself gravitating towards a lot of like trad material that actually it makes me feel more peaceful. Like
Okay.
there's certain things, but then I don't know how they take it and they just ruin it. They just absolutely
They use it for
like
evil.
dude, the more that I see Sensus Fidelium on YouTube, the more I just want to take that production down. I just hate it so much. Like the last thing I unfollowed them and I'm like, I can't do you anymore. Like they had a thing about condemning women who wear pants. And I was just like, and it's just so, it is just so gross. And it's like, somebody in the comments said something like Padre Pio hated when women wore pants. And it's like Padre Pio lived in the 1800s and died in 1968. So he would hate pants. And, you know, uh, he also smoked cigarettes and used tobacco products, but that didn't make that correct. That didn't make that good. It just meant that that's what he believed. He was a holy man despite, his flaws. But you kind of have this group of people that like really get into their like ideas about everything, and ironically they fetishize women in veils and head coverings. Like the it's so funny to me. They're just like, yeah, women shouldn't wear pants, but then in their videos they just have like the pictures that play to like the to like whatever sermon they have. They rotate between photographs, and it's always beautiful women dressed in this like traditional Catholic garb, and it's just like, you do realize that that's just as pornographic in some ways as condemning that girl for wearing yoga pants or just wearing regular pants in general, right? And I just I can't stand it, dude. I just want to go right for the jugular with those guys sometimes, because they're just so
Can you imagine? Can you imagine how Jesus Christ felt walking around Jerusalem with those Pharisees and Sadducees and scribes and zealots and oh my God, the
yeah, but he
patience.
tore them a new one. He was awesome. That's why Jesus was so cool in a lot of those circumstances. He was just like, let me set a trap for you. And then they're like, and they fall. And Jesus is like, deuces, bruh. And he like turns around and hightails it out of there with his bros, and that happens more times than not, where I'm like looking at Jesus like tear apart the Pharisees. I'm like, good job, buddy.
I just had an idea.
You want to challenge the Sensus Fidelum?
No. Because
okay.
Rebekah just said, imagine how us women feel. So I'm gonna send her
About pants?
I'm gonna send her the link, and she can meet you, and she can.
Oh yeah. I was gonna say, have a
There's the link, Rebekah. Click the link, join the call, just for 5 minutes, just to say hi to Aidan. We're waiting. Click the link, Rebekah. Click the link now.
Not at all creepy. Not at all creepy.
Do you like candy, little girl? We've got candy. Oh, she said, okay, 1 minute. The candy thing worked. I figured her out now. Okay, she likes candy.
Yeah, she didn't see it because she was reading the email. But if she goes back and she sees it.
Rebekah likes candy. Okay, good.
Ridiculous.
Anyway, I'm just being silly. I'm a silly.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm a silly sinner. Where's my whip? I'm going to whip myself.
Flagellate, self-flagellate. Are you hot, dude?
Yeah, I'm hot and sweating.
I can tell.
Yeah, Rebekah has that effect on me. I just like.
What? And don't give me the Celsius crap. How hot is it with you today in Fahrenheit?
Weather. Hey Siri, tell me the weather. Just kidding, I don't have Siri. Weather. 23
Wait,
Fahrenheit.
you're in
23 Celsius.
That's not Fahrenheit.
I know, but we can switch it to 73 Fahrenheit.
Okay, and that's what it is right here. It's 72.
Hey, yes. Rebekah, yeah.
Hey,
Aidan, Rebekah, Aidan.
How are you?
it's nice to meet you.
You too. Thank you.
So
Have
cool.
you been watching this whole thing?
No, I just came in whenever I think it was probably maybe 10 to 15 minutes ago when I came in.
Good.
So I'm
You
not
cut the
sure where the
boring.
conversation started.
I was gushing about your beauty before you started watching, so when you watch it back, I'm going to be embarrassed. But
And I told him him
Really?
it was weird.
no, but Aidan really likes you too. It's not just me. So
Yeah, I was telling David. I started watching your interview when I was exercising, and I didn't. It was just the end of it, and so I only watched like 20 or 30 minutes maybe, and I got to the point where you're like, "Yeah, I don't really believe in hell," and I'm like, "Clincher," and I didn't get to follow up on that. So maybe you can talk about that for a second.
Oh, well, I would, but I want us to have a fun conversation. And David's
come
blood
on.
pressure is going to go up if we talk about that.
No. I may have exaggerated a little bit, but anyway, yeah, we won't dwell on that. But basically,
I want to know. I'm curious. I'm like,
I would
I'm
say
like,
she's an annihilationist, if that's the correct term, annihilationist.
Yes. And the reason, and I can just give a 2-minute summary. The reason that I believe that there is no eternal conscious torment is because of the way the Bible talks about the afterlife several hundred times. The contrast that's given is life versus death. It talks throughout the Old Testament about the destiny of the wicked being destruction, and that the wicked will be no more. Now, so, this idea that they're going to be tormented on and on for eternity, well, then we can't say they've been destroyed. We can't, unless we redefine the word death and redefine the word destroy into meanings that we never use in English, and they don't use them in Hebrew, and they don't use them in Greek. And so we have to totally redefine words that have very simple meanings like death and destruction. So, there's very little biblical support. You can maybe take 2 verses from the Bible and say that it even mentions eternal conscious torment. And those are both in Revelation, which is a highly metaphorical book. There are symbols throughout. So it's very, to me, unwise to take 2 verses out of Revelation and make those to be the literal afterlife of eternal conscious torment, when we have hundreds of verses from non-metaphorical, narratives and, different, theological descriptions that clearly contrast life versus death. If the wicked are being eternally tormented, they're alive. They just have a really sucky life, right? So this is, whoever, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whoever believes in him will not perish, but have eternal life. So the contrast there is clear, and it's not heaven versus hell.
Yeah, that's not as controversial as what I thought. Never mind. That's a
Yeah.
I'm thinking I didn't
Universalism.
I knew that I only caught but at the beginning of the interview, David said something about you being a universalist, but you said no, I'm not a universalist. So I didn't think that to be the case. Wait, can as a Catholic, what is the thought about annihilationism?
It's heretical. The punishment of hell lasts for all the punishment of hell lasts for.
Can't do that.
It's very
Good thing I'm not Catholic, guys.
The punishment of hell lasts for all eternity. It's a defeated dogma. The punishment of hell lasts for all eternity. We have biblical references here: Daniel 12:2, Book of Wisdom 4:19, Judith 16:21, Matthew 18:8, 25:41, Jude 7. We've got Matthew 25:46, 2 Thessalonians 1:9, Matthew 3:12, Mark 9:14, Mark 9:45 and following, Matthew 25:46. I think I already said that. Apocalypse 14. More references.
I think you missed some, David.
Well, this is just. I don't know if you can see my book, but it's just.
I'm being facetious. You were very
there are
comprehensive.
lots and lots. It goes on and on. It's like 2 pages worth of stuff here. and the fathers of the church and this sort of thing. But hey, let's not talk about that. This is like a buzzkill. I want to talk
Yeah,
about.
no,
I
I
want
didn't think
to.
it was a buzzkill at all. I thought it was very interesting talking about eternal torment.
No, but
It's interesting.
let's just get Rebekah's impression of this fine young man, Aidan, my friend. Aidan,
Yeah.
what impression do you have of him?
Well, like I said in the chat, I'm absolutely blown away by you guys' righteousness. And it delights me so much to hear you talking about wrestling with your sin, striving to live a godly life, striving to set aside time for God. And this is just beautiful. There's 1,000 YouTube channels I could turn on right now, and they would be blaspheming God or not talking about worldly things, doing all kinds of other stuff. But it's just, your righteousness is shining forth in that your efforts to live a godly life. So I love the conversation. So
Thanks.
Aidan, thank you for being a righteous son of God, and I'm glad to meet you.
A couple of years ago, I was walking out of class with a bunch of ladies. We were in nursing school, and I had my rosary in my hand. I was really angry at somebody, and I was like, "Oh, they're such a bag of shit." And they laughed hysterically because I was holding my rosary in my hand. They're just like, "Man, that's horrible." And I'm just like, "Look, I didn't promise to be better than you. This is because I'm worse than you. Okay, like I need this." And so there's no righteousness. It's all just I just understand that I'm like, I really need the Lord. And if I didn't, I would be so far gone. It would be unreal.
Well, and that's the beautiful thing, I think sometimes the worst sinners that we are, it's so much easier to come to Jesus, right? I
Absolutely.
meet people all the time that are like, "Hey, I'm a good person. Why would I need Jesus? I could, I don't need anyone to do that. I, do this for my kids. I do this for my wife. I'm a good person. I don't do anything wrong." And I'm like, okay, well, you can't see your need for Jesus, but a lot of us do. And so it's a beautiful thing to know your need for the Savior. And so that's, many people are doing what you were doing, but not seeing their need for a Savior.
Yeah, I guess that's true. And then I feel more inclined to pray for those people too, because they're missing out. And it's always cool to see people like David. David's always in a similar boat. He's just more vocal about it than a lot of us. And David kind of wrangled a bunch of like-minded folks together, and actually, to his credit, a bunch of people that are completely unlike-minded. So it's always cool coming on the CVS channel and seeing the newer things. Also, the narcissistic side of me sees my own self on there frequently, and my brother, who's I feel like is an extension of myself. Yeah, I can't wait to watch the rest of your interview. What do you do for a living? Are you you said you were living in different Muslim communities. Were you doing missionary work?
Well, I mean, it depends how you define missionary. I do always think of myself as a missionary. My husband has been the provider of the money, and I've been, doing most of the time for the past 18 years. I have been either at home with my kids or doing ministry full time. I did have just a job for 4 months or so, but other than that, I've been full-time ministry. That's cool. Probably going to change. Actually, I'm going to apply to Catholic Charities here pretty soon.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Have you gone to Mass before?
Oh, yes.
Okay, I was going to say, have you seen, because have you seen the Book of Revelation play out in Mass? Have you seen the similarities of that, the language that's used in the Book of Revelation, and then the relationship there?
I have never thought about it that way. Why don't you explain it?
I'm not very good at explaining it. There's
the marriage of the Lamb.
Yeah, the marriage. Yeah, the marriage of the Lamb. Scott Hahn is this really. I think he was a think he was a Methodist, but I can't really remember what his denomination was, but a real lover of the Bible, just a really cool dude. He was a preacher for a long time, very anti-Catholic. And when he was in school, he started picking up the church fathers and just became immersed in them, and then started like sneaking into mass and started seeing the Bible played out in the mass, and just seeing like just how steeped it was in scripture. And then he wrote a book called The Marriage Supper of the Lamb, and I read that, but I everything that I read, I just quickly forget. Whatever I read, it has to be short and it has to be really simple, because I'm not like, my attention span's really bad. So I picked the shortest theological treatise because I can't really do anything different. But yeah, so the charity work that you're going to do, what kind of what line is it? Is it going to be like homeless or?
Well, I'm hoping to be able to work with refugees, and that's
awesome.
What I was doing in Turkey when we lived in Turkey, and so I was doing a couple different things to help refugees, and in particular refugees from Afghanistan, because I speak Persian, so I can communicate with them.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Did you have a lot of exposure to like the Orthodox community while you were, in the Middle East? There's a lot of.
Not too much. I have been to, Orthodox churches a few times, and my favorite professor in seminary was Orthodox.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So he was a Protestant, and he converted to Orthodox. And so I got a lot of exposure to the Orthodox Church through him, because he just loved like the icons and, and the church fathers. And so he was really just, kind of preaching Orthodox church stuff to us. So it was fun.
That's cool. Is your husband in the ministry too?
My husband, no, he is a linguist. He speaks like 7 languages and working on his 8th. Wow. So he does work for the government, and so that's what's like taken us to other countries and stuff. So
that's awesome.
But
he's got to learn
right?
ecclesial Latin. And then you can talk to David about Lumen Gentium.
I don't speak Latin, but I love
David. You speak Latin perfectly.
But your husband believes like you, the same like you believe, pretty much, Rebekah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're the same on everything except for young Earth creation.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he doesn't believe in evolution.
Okay.
I would have never married him if he believed in evolution. Like that was like, I was like, that was like one of the first things I asked when we were dating. Like, do you believe in evolution? No. And I'm like, okay, wow, cool. All right, we're good.
Do you, Aidan?
Do I believe in it? I don't know what I believe, dude. I was talking to my uncle about this the other day, because we were talking about your interview actually, and my uncle was just listening to it as well.
Rebekah's in it?
Yeah, and he was really enjoying it. He's like, I don't know why David cares so much about evolution. Never did anything for me. Like, just like never, considered it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm the same way. But I like to tell people I'm a young Earth creationist just to irritate them. Like, I like the idea of like providing somebody healthcare, and like they think that I'm competent, and then I'm just like, dinosaurs were fake, and then they're just like, what was that last part? And then they're immediately afraid that I'm going to administer the wrong medication.
So are you a doctor then?
God, no, I'm a nurse. No.
Oh, cool.
They don't know. You couldn't pay me enough to be a doctor, and I'm not smart enough. Clearly, I'm just like, no.
No, I don't believe that, but. Yeah, that's cool though. It would be wonderful to have that skill. It must feel just so wonderful to be able to help people who are physically suffering. Do you enjoy your work?
I do. It's the most satisfaction that I've ever had with a job. It was hell the first year that I did it. It was so, I would go to work and be afraid that I was going to kill somebody, and it was just a nightmare. I wanted to get out of it. And then I found this miracle drug called Celexa, and Celexa really helped. It was just like one of those things where I'm like, my anxiety levels are just so through the roof. And prayer wasn't helping. Nothing was really doing anything. And I was still like keeping up with my spiritual life. I wasn't like at a detriment or at a neglect, but I'd find that I'd go to work, you'd work 13 hours or close to 14 hours. And then I'd have off for a 3-day stretch, and I couldn't purge myself of my work day. I was just so stressed out. And I went to my healthcare provider and was talking to them about it. And I'm like, I guess I can try some kind of medication option. And I even felt it before. My guardian angel has just tapped me on the shoulder several times and said, "You need drugs." And it's true. You know, God works through very ordinary means. And ever since I started taking a little bit better care of myself and got a medication that worked for me, my anxiety levels just dropped down low, and I was able to come to work and deal with circumstances in a way that worked for me. But I started nursing in the COVID pandemic, so I thought I was going into orthopedics, and I ended up on a floor where people were unable to breathe. And so it's like that's a major difference. You know, you think you're dealing with knee and hip replacement, elective surgeries, and then you come in and
wow.
And then you're basically stopping people from dying. And it's, I didn't feel like I had any of the tools necessary to help anybody when I first began. But it's changed a lot, and I've grown very comfortable in the role. But floor nursing is a very, very stressful job. But I do work for a good hospital that allows us to incorporate our faith into our care. And so that's very special. There's chaplains everywhere. There's crucifixes in every room. You can consult chaplains of all different faiths. Whenever there's a priest around, I can go to confession. I can, request the anointing of the sick for somebody. You can, there's just so much there that's available for people that, in normal secular hospitals you wouldn't have.
Do people scream and cry when they're in a hospital and really sick, or do they just quietly, they scream and cry? They scream.
Oh dude, it's no. It's, so orthopedic pain is like the worst, I know that if I get somebody under the age of 40, they're typically going to be the more difficult ones to deal with, because old people know how to deal with pain. And so I see tons of motorcycle accidents. And what they don't tell young men about motorcycle accidents is if you have pelvic trauma, you have external organs that get hurt too. And so I think if every man knew the actual consequences of pelvic trauma, they would probably ditch their motorcycles.
Nasty.
But so it's really terrible. So they scream in pain and agony all day, and then you have two ends of the spectrum. You have the young people that are in the traumatic accidents, and then you have the older people that might have memory care issues, dementia, and they'll break their hip. And so when somebody has a broken hip, that's another incredibly painful issue. And so you have people, screaming in pain, just laying there before they're fixed, and then screaming in pain when they're trying to do regular activities of daily living, like just going to the bathroom. So getting somebody up onto a bedpan, and if they have bilateral lower extremity fractures and one of their shoulders is broken and then they have one good arm, trying to get that person onto a bedpan, it's a joke. It's so excruciating. And so they're...
Okay, let's talk about hell again. Because hell is a lot more pleasant to talk about.
No, but the secret is this. When I go in and I meet my patients first thing in the morning, I offer them caffeine and I offer them sugar. And I find that if I give them coffee and if I give them something sweet, popsicles, it literally night and day difference. So I don't know if Jesus is behind that phenomenon. It's either Jesus or it's just our addictive tendencies. But I like to think that Jesus is the one bringing the coffee to everybody in the morning.
Are there meds that will kill pretty much any pain, like heroin or what do they call it? Morphine.
Dilaudid is the main player in there. Dilaudid's the one that usually knocks out pain, but it's got a really quick half-life. So you inject somebody with that, and then in an hour they're feeling it again. But I've gone through the real spectrum with pain medications. I found, because we have a lot of people on methadone. Methadone really helps people with pain. We kind of have this view of methadone as lay people that's like, that's the drug that gets people off of heroin, so you don't get high from it. And it's not even slightly true. Methadone will like knock you through a loop. And so I knew that if a patient has methadone, their pain care is going to be a little bit better because it's pretty strong. But
heavy work, man. Very heavy work. Very, very heavy.
Literally, they're quite heavy. And but it's good, man. I work with a lot of cool people. But work
high
also
burnout rate in the long term.
Absolutely, man. If you heard my language on the floor, that's one of the things I've been working on lately. Is I'm like, I told the priest a couple of weeks ago, I'm like, yeah, I'm Satan in the hallway and then Jesus when I'm in their room, because I'm just like, you just add on one more doctor's order, and I'm like, and then, you kind of have to knock it off and get into character and go into the room. But,
wow.
Yeah, let's talk about hell again.
Well, do you see any healing miracles?
Good question.
Not healing miracles, but I had a gentleman who saw angels on the operating room table, and he was. I tell you what, because I had a couple of opportunities to like pray with people, and I'm very afraid to pray with people a lot of the time. It's not like a charism of mine. So it was really cool that like some people are in so much pain but they're just so open to prayer that I'll offer it. And this gentleman, I got to pray with him, and I gave him a rosary that I made him, and it was just really cool. And he had this abdominal injury that got really infected. And I kept trying to tell the healthcare provider, like, hey, look, something's wrong with his abdomen. He is screaming in pain. It's really taut. It's really rigid. Something's wrong. And he had to go get emergency surgery. And when he was on the table with his emergency surgery, he told me he saw these two angels, and he said they were massive. And this guy is big. This dude's like a 500-pound dude. He is not a small guy. And he said that these things basically, like, their fingers were half the size of his body. He said they had this mother of pearl color, and they had these like golden like decorations like going down their skin. They said were almost kind of like veins. And he said their heads were shaped like axes, and they had eyes all over them. He said they were huge, and one of them had this flaming sword that it held, and it told him to pick up his sword. And he felt them take him, and one of them placed his giant finger. He said it was kind of reminded him of like how we would picture like the Incredible Hulk, his hand would be. And he felt this pressure in his stomach, and couldn't describe the sensation further, but was just so impressed by that. He said they were so scary, but not, they were, like fear of God scary, not like terrifying. It's just like something you would see and you wouldn't mess with. Yeah. But
did they help him?
During the surgery, that was the impression I got. But he came back weeks later. I saw him in the hallway. I was walking. I don't even think I was supposed to be there that day. And I was walking down the hallway, and there he was in a wheelchair with his family. And he's like, hey, I'm here to get more surgery. My abdomen's infected. So God willing, everything's okay. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that was true angelic intervention. But we also have creepy stuff too.
Oh, really? Like what? Hauntings?
Yeah, we have a little girl that runs around on the hallway that a doctor has seen, and a couple of my patients. I had a patient in, we'll say 869, and she had dementia, and she kept talking about seeing this little girl. And I saw a little girl last night. And I'm like, yeah, okay, and I'd did my work with her. And a week later, we were all out in the hallway, me and a couple of other nurses, and they're like, yeah, that patient with dementia saw that little girl in 869. And I'm like, oh, yeah, the patient that was here last week? And I said her name, and they're like, no, it was another patient with dementia who was in the same room. And I was like, oh, that's really strange that they would both see the same thing, similar circumstances, but, the same kind of appearance. So I don't know if that's like a soul asking for prayer or if it's some kind of demonic presence. But the more I see dementia, the more that I see a weapon of Satan, because it's just so evil. It's so disturbing.
Now, were you being literal when you said you felt your guardian angel tap you on the shoulder about the medication?
Yeah, it's a feeling. It's a sense. But
did you feel a physical tap?
No. I've had a couple of moments with him. I don't ever get full on like angelic encounters. I've had moments that are I think God places them there to test my faith. Like the other night, I was trying to pray, and I had this ringing started happening in my ear, and I just turned to him and I said, dude, can you get rid of this ringing? And almost immediately the ringing went away. And so moments like that could be a physiological phenomenon. That doesn't necessarily mean it's spiritual. It could have been something mental that just clicked off. And so I just keep it open to the spiritual side. But at Mass a couple of years ago, I was praying a little bit after Mass had ended, and I looked up and I saw on the altar St. Michael. And then as soon as I saw him, he was gone. But the impression I got was this huge, massive, like 20-foot bulldog of an angel. And then that was it. I couldn't tell you any real details or anything meaningful. Have you?
Okay, I'll let Rebekah answer, and then I want to tell you a story.
Yeah. Have you seen or felt anything literal like that?
Well, for a period of time in my spiritual journey, I would say between 2015 and 2017, I felt angels quite often. And at first I wasn't sure what I was feeling. But what it would feel like is something like just like kind of an electricity, but it was localized. Now, when I feel the presence of the Holy Spirit, I'll feel sort of an electricity all over my body. But this was different because it felt like something was brushing up against me, on one side or one place or on my hand or something like that. And so I suspected it was angels. I felt that it was angels. And then I have a friend who sees angels. Now, I never know, sometimes if you don't know a person well, you don't really know if you should believe that they see angels. You know what I mean? It's like one of those things. It's like, but it's very weird
Sure
because
you do.
A lot of those, a lot of people who tell me that they see angels in the other areas of their life, they're so serious and grounded that I tend to believe them, right? Because it's like, they're not like kind of like, they're not like loopy in every way. But anyway, so it's like, okay, this person, I didn't know her that well. So I didn't know if I believed her about her seeing angels all the time. But I was on a mission trip with her, and she was telling me, oh, do you know what, she was like, there's an angel on the plane wing right now. And she was describing this angel, and I'm sitting next to her. Wait a minute. I was sitting next to her on a bus, but she was describing to me the angel that she saw on the wing plane. So we were not on a plane, sorry. But so she was sitting next to me on the bus. And as she was describing this angel on the wing plane, I felt the feeling I feel when an angel is right there. And the moment that I felt it, she said, oh, one just appeared right there. And so that made me say,
that's awesome.
Wow, okay. It was sort of a confirmation to me that like what I was feeling and suspected was angels actually was, and that she was really seeing them. So yeah.
That's cool. That's really
And
awesome.
I didn't say anything to her. I didn't say, "Ooh, I feel an angel." I felt something on my arm. The moment I felt it, she said, "An angel just appeared right there, right now."
You get
So,
a peace.
mhm.
You get peace with that, or anxiety, or what do you get with the angels?
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. It's just as I feel a joy in the presence of God. Like, and I during that time period of my life is when I saw the most healing miracles. So it's when I saw the most instantaneous miracles. And it's when I felt the closest to God. So I had an experience that, like, it really, like, at that time, it made me feel the presence of God nearly on a constant basis for about 6 or 7 months.
Wow.
And if I ever for a moment didn't feel it, all I had to do was, like, I would just kind of instinctually lift up my hands and I would just feel the presence of God come over me. Now, I don't
That's
know,
awesome.
I would love to get back to that. I don't know what happened to it. But that was really a wonderful time.
We have periods of consolation and desolation, and it's all training in the spiritual warfare. That's what I would say. That's what the church teaches. With the God spoils us a little bit, withdraws, and then spoils us and withdraws, and it's all part of that. That's what I've read in the Saints. It's I was riding on a pink cloud for like 10 years solid when I converted in 2009. So
Really?
it's just now, like the past 2 years where I've been maybe part of the negativity you're picking up from me is just the fact that I'm at a low point now, like 2 years of low desolation compared to the 10 years of pink cloud. But I want to share a little anecdote with you and see what your gut reaction is, both of you. It's just a little story about when I was in Europe living in Belgium with my wife, and we stayed with this woman, Jacqueline Ross. She's an artist, really nice, sweet, older lady, and she shares my last name, Ross, so just coincidence, but another thing to bond over, and she treated us like her kids, just being very generous with us. And we slept over one night. And I don't know why we slept over at her house, but anyway, she lived in a cute little house, and there was a little attic, and we had to go up like a ladder to get into the attic. So you climb up this ladder, and then you just have your little nook, and we slept there. And I knew that she had lost her daughter tragically. I forget how she died, but might have been cancer, might have been an accident. I don't know. I can't remember. But the point is, I knew that she was grieving the loss of her daughter. It's never easy, I don't think, to lose a child, but an adult child too, right? Like someone that I think she was in her late teens, early 20s, something like that. The daughter that died. So we talked about many things. That was one of them, obviously, but I wasn't like dwelling on that. But when I went to bed that night, I had a mystical vision. Like it was more than a dream. It's like, everything's very deliberate, and you turn and you look, and there, climbing up the ladder, is this young, beautiful woman with the Muslim head veil hijab thing. And, just a modest thing, like you would see the Blessed Virgin Mary, okay? Mm-hmm. And I was atheist. I had no love of the Blessed Virgin Mary whatsoever, obviously. So I just thought, oh, this is like, I was just in awe. And it was just like a silent, peaceful thing. And there she was. She had a neutral look on her face, but it was sort of like a beautiful face. And I don't know if she went down or if just that vision ended. And then the next morning, I'm like, hey, I had this dream, and it was really weird. Like, it was really real. And I described it, and I described the face. I described the hair color, even though the hair was covered mostly by the veil. And she said, yeah, that's my daughter. And she said, in heaven, this is how they appear with the veil. And she just took it for absolute certainty, 100%, no question. yeah, you saw my daughter, you know? So what do you think of that story? Is she doing wishful thinking, or, you know, was it subconscious in me? Because it was more than just a dream. Like, you know, the special feeling you get when something supernatural is happening. What impression do you guys get from that little story?
I think you're a liar. No, that sounds cool, man. I think people know. I think people know
You think it was the
instinctively.
daughter?
Yeah, why
Okay.
not, man?
Okay.
Why not?
But is she happy? I mean, like, is there any indication from my story? Like,
I think her going downward signified that she's damned.
no,
No, I think that
no, but
it was probably. Well, wait. So did your host show you a photograph of her daughter?
I don't think so. I don't recall.
No,
I don't recall. I would have asked. You should have asked for a photo. That's what you say. Yeah.
I'm probably the wrong person to ask because I'm always a little bit like, I don't know if that happened. Even when God like gobsmacks me with certain things, I'm like, maybe that's still my brain, you know? So,
But if we were just to, let's just say, for example, it's the daughter, but I'm worried, like, okay, is she in heaven, hell, purgatory? Is she hanging around like a ghost? Like, what's going on?
she looked peaceful.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was a pleasant dream, you know, zero terror. So is that a good sign that probably she's not damned, right?
And I would say, so, yeah. But I mean, there's nothing wrong with praying for people anyway.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like always soliciting the prayers of our Christian brothers and sisters that need that
Is that
extra
okay
boost.
for you, Rebecca, to pray for the dead or no?
Yeah, you pray for the dead. That's a good one.
I have no problem praying for the dead. Like if like let's say someone dies and then like, you know, a friend's relative dies or something, and then, you know, they come over and they're upset, then I will pray. I'll say a prayer and I'll say, please receive that person into your kingdom. And, you know, so yeah, I have no problem with that. But I mean, I don't sit around praying for the dead. I don't like, there's like very few circumstances where I would pray for the dead. Like that's like a circumstance I would pray for the
I
dead.
pray, and I'm not being silly here. I'm not making a joke. I literally pray for the dead all day, every day. That's like one of my top priorities. It's one of my top priorities for sure. You know why?
Really?
Yeah, you know why?
Because you think they're suffering in purgatory and you
Yeah.
want to help them out?
Well, that's not the main reason. The main reason is because I'm gonna die, and I want to have these prayers, right? Like I'm preparing so that my stay in purgatory will be shorter. So it's a very selfish thing. But I also,
So David, you think of like purgatory as a place and not as like not as a transition.
well, I don't
'Cause
care.
I always think
I don't
of,
care if it's a
you
place
know,
or a transition or a state of mind or whatever. I don't care. But all I know is it's long and painful, and
I don't want it.
I don't want to go there, and I
Yeah.
don't want to. But if I end up there, God forbid, then I'm praying every day for the holy souls in purgatory, past, present, and future. So that includes me. So I have to admit, my prayer life is very, very self-centered. I always say I pray for the true and lasting conversion of all sinners, past, present, and future, most especially myself and my wife and those who are close to us, etc., etc. So it starts with me and my wife, and then it goes out from there. I'm pretty sure most people do this self-centered style of prayer. I'm not sure, but I do.
I think everybody approaches God because something happens to them. Like there's not like nobody ever says like I don't need Jesus, but
Those
I'm gonna
other
go to him
guys
anyway.
do.
Yeah,
Aidan
So
needs Jesus.
so I'm gonna pray to him. I think everybody always comes to like fear of the Lord, like is, you know, like the beginning of wisdom, right? So fear of the Lord is egotistical in one sense because you're like, oh man, I'm really sinful, and then you like look at yourself and you see that God is good, and it's narcissistic in one sense, but then it brings you to a state of humility over time. So I don't think that there is any other way that you can approach prayer, to be honest
Well,
with you,
when
Dave.
Jesus approached that guy that could never find his spot in the healing waters, remember? He didn't
I do.
say, he didn't,
I watched The
Jesus,
Chosen.
he didn't say like, oh no, don't put me in the water. Go put that other guy, Fred, in the water, because he's been waiting around for years trying to get in. No, he just said, put me in the water. And when people were blind, Jesus said, what do you want? Make me see. It's like, so there is, I think, a precedent in the Bible, like, yeah, we are sick. And, you know, there are also examples where the family and friends, like, took off the roof and lowered the paraplegic into the house or whatever. Like, that's very touching. But
Also in The Chosen. Have you watched The Chosen
no,
yet?
I haven't watched The Chosen. No.
Watch that show, dude.
Okay.
Watch that show. Rebekah, have you seen that show?
I have seen the first season. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I enjoy it. It's quite nice.
I had an interaction. Sorry to cut you off, Aidan.
You should be sorry.
I'm
dude.
just bored of listening to your voice. Just kidding.
Me too, man.
But I was in the chat with some guy on Twitter, and he's like, I'm a Calvinist, and I don't pray to Mary and all this sort of thing. And later on in the Twitter conversation, like we're just having private chat back and forth, talk about religion, this and that, the other thing. And I said, hey man, I just met this guy, but I'm like, hey man, would you? I'd like you to pray for me. Are you willing to pray for me? He's like, yeah, sure, man, no problem. Yeah, I'll pray for you. What is it? And I said, well, this is, if you're willing, if it's okay for me to ask you to pray, then what's the difference? Like, I mean, I'm just disgusting sinner. So if it's okay, if this style of intercessory prayer is okay for you, why wouldn't it be okay with the Mother of God, right? Like, it's like you are perfectly fine with intercessory prayer when it's like two dirty sinners, but if it's the mother of your Lord and Savior, that's not okay, right? Is that a good illustration of?
Do you want me to emphatically agree with you after you just
No, well,
told
you're
me my voice is...
You're two different people. You're two different people. You probably have two different opinions. I want to hear it. Talk amongst yourselves.
I think Rebekah should talk because everybody knows that, I'm going to be like,
Yeah.
right on, David. Yeah, Catholic stuff.
Got
this
you,
is
Rebekah.
one of the aspects of.
I got you. Just kidding.
I guess this is one of the aspects of Catholicism that, I mean, I agree with. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, yeah.
Wasn't expecting that.
Really?
Well, yeah, because because if you read the New Testament on prayer, it seems to be a very specific, it's not even a prescription or a formula, but I mean, like, what you glean from it is pretty much, you pray to the Father in the name of Jesus. And there are specific ways you do that. And he, like, also reading about his, when you pray, don't pray as the heathens do, heaping up empty phrases, for they think it will be heard for their many words. You read something like that and you're like, there you go, that condemns repetitive prayer. And so you can, like, see all these things. And so when people say, I have a problem asking for Mary's prayers, I'm like, yeah, I get it. I mean, I don't agree with it, but I get it. And and then also developing a prayer life, in the Catholic tradition, you see it and you're like, okay, so even if it's not disagreeable, why are we not teaching more so the way that Jesus specifically told us how to pray? Like, why don't we see that being handed down to people?
With more emphasis.
With more emphasis, because the rosary gets, like, thrown in everybody's face, like, all the time. But if you, like, think about Jesus's words regarding prayer, Catholic people are like, Jesus spoke about prayer. Why did he do that? And they're like, you can open the Bible and read it. There's a very, like, strange relationship with a lot of Catholics and Scripture. So, very refreshing to hear what you think.
Yeah, it's one of those, like, it's a practice that I feel that I understand and I'm fine with. I don't do it. And that's because I can also see the other side of it, where it's also like, we're not really supposed to commune with the dead. Like, that's also
She's
kind
not
of
dead, though.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. There's, like, kind of the saints are alive, right? But I don't see... But I don't see in Scripture, like, an example of this being done. So it's not something that I do, but I have no problem with people doing it. Like, I'm not going to, tell someone they shouldn't ask Mary to do, intercede for them on something. So, yeah.
Well, and I've always had, like, a complicated relationship, like, in that area, but I've always ended up defaulting to it anyway, because I know that it's good for me, and Mary has helped me out on so many occasions. And I was deep into yoga for a long time and felt at odds with my faith about yoga. And then I feel like it was Mary's intercession that like slowly started pulling me out of like um, Eastern philosophies and into the lap of Christianity, or the lap specifically of Jesus. Because I mean, you know, she's got two legs, so Jesus is sitting on one of her thighs, and then you can occupy the other, and that's kind of how.
Wow. Did you make that up, or is that a Catholic
No,
thing?
no, I made that up. Yeah,
Wow. Wow.
but
That
you
makes me
know
a little bit uncomfortable hearing that, but it's cool.
what?
It's very
It's true.
intimate. It's very intimate.
I mean, dude, if we're supposed to be like little children,
Yeah.
then there's nothing wrong with that, man. Pick me up
Yeah.
and take care of me, because
Yeah.
I'm garbage. So like I need to be picked up and held, rather than running off and doing a bunch of things on my own.
Well, so did you end up like coming to like a firm position on you don't think yoga, like do you think Christians should not practice yoga?
I think Aidan shouldn't practice it. It's I experienced some weird spiritual phenomenon prior to my actual jump into yoga, and then when I started reading yogic literature, I'm like, oh, I experienced that. Like, I don't know if you know anything about Kundalini, but I experienced a Kundalini spirit once when I was 19 or 20 years old, and it was really terrifying. And so then when I got into yoga, I read this book called The Science of Yoga, and it was really awesome. But they had a whole section dedicated to people that have experienced the phenomena of Kundalini, and just looked at it pretty objectively and was like, this is pretty scary. And I'm like, hey, I experienced that. I didn't know that that's what it was called. But one night when I was half asleep, half awake, I experienced sleep paralysis. I was sleeping on my stomach, and my head was turned to the side, and I felt like very hot and cold at the same time. Like I can't remember what the phenomenon was. If my skin was cold and I was burning up on the inside, but I was sweaty, and it felt like somebody took a tuning fork and banged the tuning fork on my spine, and I felt this bizarre vibration up and down my back, like I was like a rumble pack, and this like weird electrical stimulation throughout my whole body, and this big cloud appeared, and it had a face, and it like told me it had 7 different names, and it was just absolutely horrifying. And people kind of chase that spiritual phenomenon. I knew instinctively, I'm like, oh, that's a demon. And there's just no other way around it. There was nothing about the experience that was pleasant. I was steeped in really disgusting sin at that time. I had sought out the counsel of one of my friend's moms. Was a I don't know if she was a tarot card reader or just a medium in general, but I sought out her help, and it's like, well, there you go, open doorway right there. But people chase this phenomenon down. They actually want it in the yoga world, and there's just something so backwards about that. And so the more that I got entrenched in yoga, the more I saw the occult side of it, and just what it did to people. It made people narcissists. It made people body focused. It made people it was very much reserved for sexy people, not broken people. And I always saw it as a tool that could be used to help people fix their bodies, but it ended up getting hijacked by hi, my name's Brittany, I'm going to do this handstand. And it's just like, it's just so overly sexualized. And I'm like, me as a man, I don't really have a place in this anymore. And slowly phased out of it. But I was also too cowardly to be my authentic Christian self in that situation too, because it was just like a den of spiritual cherry picking. So Jesus isn't really welcome in that realm, unless of course Jesus is accompanied by the Buddha and by Krishna. So
Wow, pretty strong words and a pretty powerful testimony. And I think you're 100% correct. I mean, what do I know? But I mean, I think there's a reason why the church has warned us against dabbling with Eastern mysticism, and even with yoga. There are documents encyclicals that have been put out in the last century that talk about the dangers of the East, you know, the beauty of the East, the truth of the East, and then the dangers, and it's a balanced appraisal. But there's no doubt there is a spiritual element to yogic practices, and that's where the danger lies. When you and I, Aidan, have had this conversation before about stretching is not demonic, right? Stretching is not demonic.
No,
it's just not.
Yeah, but I would argue that yoga is so much more than stretching. Like, Rebekah, do you practice yoga, or have you practiced yoga?
No, not at all.
Okay.
And I feel the same way about it. I mean, I'm probably not, I don't feel strongly enough about it that, like, if Christians are practicing it, I'm not going to be like the one being like, no, you know,
Right.
like, I'm going to say, okay, let the Lord work within what they're doing and let them worship. Because some of them will say, I'm worshiping God. I'm not worshiping any, you know, other deity. But a lot of the positions and stuff are, you know, specifically for worshiping certain deities and things like that. So
Right. Yeah, and there's no escaping that. Well, and I mean, so if somebody didn't believe in God and they went to a worship service 3 nights out of the week, and they were told, you don't have to believe in God, but I just want you to stand here, and I want you to sing the music, and I want you to put your hands in the air, and I just want you to do that. You don't have to say, you don't have to believe any of it. And they did that consistently for a year. One day they come in, they're down on their luck. They're like, man, I really feel awful today. My boss treated me poorly. My girlfriend left me. You know what? I'm a real slob. And then all of a sudden they're in that, they're like, wait a second. It just lends itself to this moment of receiving whoever's at the other end of that practice. And the same thing with yoga. The more that you put yourself into that posture or that breathing exercise, the more that you're pruning yourself to receiving whatever that demonic entity is. And so much of yoga is anglicized and gymnastic, and then there's like bits of it that are absolutely not anglicized. And so there's just no way that you can be informed enough to know which postures are safe and which postures are unsafe, because there's so many of them. They've all been modified. They've all been sold to white women in spandex and then like packaged up for white men to go and and enjoy for themselves. I mean, it's just the truth. It's just really what it is. It's a just a big old pit of deception that is very, very attractive. I still find myself floating back to it in mind and thinking like, man, I could go practice or teach a class or, you know, whatever. And then thank God I haven't, you know, actually acted on those impulses, because it's just so fleeting and so pale compared to the truth. But
now, is the attraction that you have to it because of the women in spandex, or is it also because of like the kind of like practice itself?
It's the practice itself. In fact, even if I did go back, like towards the end of my practice, I was like teaching a class with my head down, because I'm just like, there's no chastity in this. And I, you know, just got married, and I wanted to be good to my wife. Thank God for my wife, because she's the one who opened the doorway for Jesus to come in. But I instinctively knew you have a bunch of habits here that are not conducive to being married. So get it together. And so that changed, but there is something attractive about the practice that's not related to sex. And it's just about like, maybe sex visually, maybe it's another way. Maybe it's like virility, like suppleness, freedom from our physical, bondage, because there really is an aspect of us that we're just so physically bound, and yoga does free you from a lot of that, and also it looks cool. You know, Christianity has so much stuff in it that just looks so lame. Like if I see another, you know, Jesus fish and cross, I might vomit, you know. But then you look at that compared to a lotus flower, and you're just like, ooh, mandalas, you know, dude with 6 arms. Like there's something cool about it. Like
Exotic.
It is exotic, which is why I think the Orthodox Church is so cool. Because when you see certain like bits of iconography, you're like, oh yeah, that trumps yoga. It like, tramples it underfoot. And so if you want something mysterious, you want something holy, then there are these deep wells that you can go to draw from that. You just have to know where to go, and don't talk to, your Joe six-pack Catholic, because he's not going to know where it is. You kind of have to be willing to, do the deep dive yourself.
So we're gonna wrap it up because my thing is gonna end here. My call is gonna end. They put a time limit on it, but I'm really happy that you two met. And Rebekah, this guy's got a
awesome.
brother. This guy's got a brother. You wouldn't believe these guys. They're so different, but they're so similar, and they got the sibling rivalry, everything. So you'll have to meet the brother sometime. But it's a real joy and a pleasure that you're so spontaneous. It's very rare. No insult to the fairer sex, but it's so rare to find a woman that's just like, yeah, sure, give me 1 minute. If that was my wife, it'd be like, yeah, give me 4 hours and I'll get ready, and then maybe I'll be ready to be on camera. But to be that spontaneous and to be that cool and like, hey, yeah, I'll jump on a video and I'll talk with this guy I've never met, and it's like 2-on-1 Catholic versus non-Catholic. It's like very cool that you're so hip. And you're just open, hip and open. And it's just a real joy to have you both on here. And
Thank you very much.
Can we do this sometime where it's actually scheduled? Because I am like the fair sex, and I do like to put on my makeup and I like look pretty.
Well, you got to get that 8-pack tightened up a bit. I noticed.
I know. Let myself go, buddy.
That's why you wore the t-shirt. Normally he doesn't wear clothes during our interviews, but he just said, oh, I'm getting chubby again. And he put on a shirt.
It's true. Let it hang out.
I loved this talk. I mean, we just jumped from one topic to another, and it was so much fun. And so thank you so much for inviting me on. That was really sweet.
Amazing.
Thank you for...
Yeah,
no, it was awesome. I wanted to say also, I really enjoyed it. Thank you for coming and livening up, because it seems that when I've been talking to David lately, we've been getting other people to join it, and it makes it so much better, because it's just like I I love to talk too much, and then it's nice to have other people, make it so have some variety. So thank you for listening to my garbage. David, thank you for having me on.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure. You're both sweet people, and you inspire my faith in different ways. And
you need to repent now, David. You're on your way to hell.
Why? What'd I do?
Nothing. I just wanted to let you know before I go that death draws nigh, and that you have but a moment.
I see. Okay, so. I see what we're doing. Okay, you're showing the contrast between yourself and Rebekah, and the two sides of that Christian coin.
Exactly.
Right. Okay, I got it.
Exactly.
And I'm telling you, you are holy. You are righteous.
You can sing. You're a saint. Sing it. Sing that song. Don't worry, be happy. How's it go? Don't worry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, there's more to it than that. We have a lot more in common, probably, than Aidan ever thought. Right, Aidan?
Sure. Absolutely. You just need somebody to like come in and pick it up and elevate it to that moment. But if you get a couple of like negative Nancy's, together all the time, then we just kind of, the tonal quality matches. So you just need somebody else to come in there and be unwilling to compromise and, drop down to that level. And then instinctively the two bums will then raise up to it. But you are going to go to hell, David, if you don't change your ways. So
I appreciate it.
End it on that note. You're welcome. I love
feedback.
you enough to tell you that. That's not true. I'm so sorry.
I'm going to be appearing on Rebekah's show, I think Wednesday. Is that right? Wednesday?
Yep.
That's awesome.
So check that out. Check out Rebekah's channel, Bread of Life. I don't even know what it's all about, because I'm trying to not learn too much. I like the organic, get to know me kind of thing. And so I don't want to learn too much from watching old videos there.
Very excited. Actually, I looked you up and kept spelling your name wrong. So I only got one video of you talking to somebody else. So I'll check out your Bread of Life channel too.
Cool.
You do that regularly?
Yes. Usually a couple times a week.
Awesome.
So I had COVID last week, so I didn't do much, but if you go to YouTube and you type in Bread of Life channel, it'll be the first one that comes up.
Okay, I'll check it out. That sounds awesome.
Yep. Okay. Bye,
Thank you
guys.
so
Thank
much.
you so
Take
much.
care.
God bless.
Bye.
Good night. Bye.
All right, take care.
God bless you.
See you, David.
Bye. Nice talking to you. Bye.